Ciao, Paisans. Welcome back to another tremendous episode of Calcio Culture. Match Week 6 is in the books, and we're covering it live just for you, Paisans. This week, the ghost of Motta passed, showing up as Juventus draw once again, making it 5 in a row, showcasing their pedigree and their newly signed depth with a convincing 4-1 win. Napoli stay top of the table with some second-half grinta, picking up all 3 points against Genoa. Bologna dominate versus Pisa at home. Lecce with a huge 3 points in an early relegation battle versus Parma. Lazio score the latest goal in Serie A history to earn a point versus Torino in a crazy 3-3 tie at the Stadio Olimpico. Sassuolo squeaking out a win in an underwhelming 90 minutes against Verona. And then Como and Atalanta and Cagliari and Udinese all drawing with 1 goal apiece. Paisans, great to be here. I am your host, Logs, here with both of my co-hosts, Vos and Mats. Vos, how we feeling?
Oh, you mix it up. Usually you go to Mott's there. I wasn't ready for that. So
Trying to throw you off
my
today.
thoughts. I'm feeling good. I feel really good about this episode. I think it's going to be a really good one. Unfortunately, I will say this past weekend, we had the first big matchup that I think was underwhelming. I think for the most part this season, the big Titan clubs have put up really good games, and this was probably the first time it kind of underwhelmed. So, but other than that, it was a good weekend.
Underwhelmed from a score standpoint.
From a score.
But there was definitely chances in the game. But I'm feeling well. I'm feeling good. I'm excited for this episode. One thing I want to note that I think is a Calcio Culture first here that I literally just thought of when Logan was asking us how we were doing. We are representing, all of us have kits on, and all of us representing different clubs. We have Milan, Inter, and Juventus being represented, if you're not watching on video for the Paisanos. But I think this is a Calcio Culture first.
Yeah, usually there's some overlap, I think. I don't think
overlap
there's ever 3.
or someone's not wearing a kit or some, I think this is the first
one.
It
looks good. I kind of like it. I think we should keep rolling with this when we can. I mean, the problem is you only have Juventus jerseys.
I sprinkled a couple of Napoli
He's
ones,
got
and I got some Italy ones as well. But Paisanos, comment which kit you like the most. Calcio Mots, Calcio Vos, or Calcio Logs?
Yeah, let us know, Paisans. Listen, like we always say at the end of episodes, we need your support. We love your support. Keep commenting, keep liking, keep subscribing. Give us 5 stars on every platform that you can. You know where to find us on X, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Calcio Culture FC. And you're listening live on all your favorite streaming sites. That's Apple Pods and Spotify. Lads, Paisans, Quick Shouts is coming back this week. We always love a good Quick Shouts. It's one of my favorite segments going back to the beginning of time here. But a couple of topics that we do need to cover. Today, both Mats and I were lucky winners of the Visa pre-sale, whatever you want to call it, for the World Cup tickets. And let us tell you that they are not for the faint of wallet. Those tickets are some of the most expensive electronic pieces of paper I have ever laid my eyes on.
Yeah, I got in first. I was lucky enough to beat Logan in on the queue. I'm not going to call myself lucky because I didn't get in. The tickets were available at 11. I didn't get in until 11:45. And when I got in there, the cheapest tickets were $144, which isn't bad, but I didn't act quick enough. And those went very fast. And then we were looking at tickets in group stage games for $410. In round of 16 games, minimum $710. Quarterfinal games, minimum $1,120. Basically, what happened for me was that price tag just scared me enough to not buy tickets until my time ran out. And so I got none.
Well, Paisans, listen, one of us had to bite the bullet. I did get some tickets. We've got a couple of games on the docket for next year. We'll obviously remind you all, but it would be awesome to meet up at a couple of the World Cup games. Listen, very excited for this to be in the U.S. here. I think it's going to do wonders for the game of soccer/football here in the States. But classic America, classic capitalism. These tickets are literally 10,000 times more expensive than they are for any other country. So if you do get tickets, you guys are amazing. We will try to see you at every single game. In other news, another quick shout. We don't need to get on the PJ. We
Pause.
just continue.
See them at every game. Logan, we can't afford.
They got to send us content, bro.
Yeah,
I'm not going to every game unless we get like a sugar daddy paisan to start funding our trips. But I don't know. I mean, Paisans, listen, if you got some funds and you need your favorite podcast out of the games, let us know. I'm happy to travel wherever you need me to go. But in any case, we do have another great quick shout here from the bottom of my heart and Mott's heart. We 100% appreciate all the work that Vos is doing behind the scenes, Paisans. If you haven't read it, you need to check in, dive in. This man is an absolute writer. Check out Vos's Substack. Mott's and I will eventually get on there. But Vos is certainly carrying the weight. We will post the link here, but Vos, you're doing a great job with the highlight game of the week, so we appreciate you. And Paisans, please let us know what you think of Vos's words. Again, put a lot of effort into this. We put a lot of time in this week by week. We love to hear your opinions, your thoughts on how we can get better. So thank you, Vos.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it gets us perfectly into our next quick shout. We're trying to make a bigger impact here for Calcio Culture, like Loke said. I've been doing a couple writing kind of blog type things. If you want to check it out, you can search it calcioculture.substack.com. We've also been putting the links on the Twitter. We've been active on Twitter as well, all of us, I think. So we're trying to get more content to you guys. If there's anything we don't talk about and you want us to write about it, feel free to shoot us a note. If there are things you want us to talk about on here, also shoot us a note. But that does get us into our last quick shout, which I'm going to hand off to Mats here for something for the Paisans to do.
Yeah, just get active, as Vos mentioned. We've had, as Vos just mentioned, we've had a lot of active Paisans in TikTok, on YouTube, commenting, liking, subscribing. And we're just asking, continue to do so. Also, tell a friend to tell a friend, right? If you have friends that are other Calcio lovers, get them involved, get them commenting, get them interacting with us. We love every comment. We talk about it in our group chat. When we get comments, we try to respond to everybody. So please keep commenting, keep liking, and tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yeah, and on the TikToks, we had some very interesting comments. We basically clipped something of Mott's last week talking about how Napoli could maybe switch to like a 4-3-3. And there were some very interesting ideas, I have to say. Somebody said that the best thing to do would be put KDB as a false nine and drop one of the strikers. So there's a lot of interesting things. I do like everybody's takes. So again, guys, we're reading the comments. We're going to try to talk about it on here when we can. But shout out all the Paisans that have been here from the start. If this is your first time here, welcome to the club. We're going to get Calcio Culture to the moon at some point.
To the Luna and beyond. Match week 6, Paisans. We start out with what Vos said, a battle of the giants in Turin.
The Calcio Culture Derby.
The Calcio Culture Derby, the Victoria Derby, the Allegri Derby. Still haven't found out what we're going to continue to call it.
Derby is my favorite still.
But Milan do travel down the road. They get in the van. They get in the car. They didn't leave the car. The car's the most important thing. We'll get to that at some point. But Milan do go to Turin, to the Allianz, and take on Juve. Huge, huge game here. Huge tilt. I wish that I could say the result was better than 0-0, but when you look under the hood here, this game had it all. This game was a flashback of the best part of Allegri's defense. Seemed like Juventus having Allegri in the stadium, they figured that they were going to go back to their Allegri days, back to the Motta days of pure defense, very little possession, and just hold on tight, gripping it tight. But both sides very, very content with dropping back, dropping in, low block, letting the other team keep possession. What I've been pointing to in the past as meaningless possession. But from my perspective as a Milan fan, a ton of missed opportunities here. The big headline, of course, is Christian Pulisic up to the penalty spot. He absolutely skies it off to the right. Huge missed opportunity there. He makes up for it with a couple of great balls into the box, one notably to Rafael Leao on the back post, and his second return here from injury, still rusty, boofs it off to the right. Modric with a beautiful pass to Leao through the back lines. Another miss from Leao. But on the other side, Mats, we do have Juve with a couple of missed chances. Jonathan David in the first half, not getting his plant foot down. He falls down in the box. Gabbia clears. We have a unbelievable chance by Gatti off a corner a couple minutes into the second half. Maignan, Magic Mike showing up, getting big, getting something on it, gets the save there. So definitely not an uneventful game. I think when you look at this after the fact and you take into account that there probably should have been at least 1 or 2 goals for each side here, a lot to go off of, but very unbiasedly, Mats and Vos, I'd love to hear your opinion from a third party who loves all the other 18 teams in the league. I feel much more comfortable with Milan coming out of this game than I do Juve.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. However, I would say Milan, the storyline here or the headline might be Milan lost 2 points rather than earned 1 because they had
Agreed.
the bigger chances. But yeah, I mean, we knew what Milan was going to do, right? We know their style of play. We know Allegri's style, Cortomuso's style of play. Sit back, counterattack, and hope for one or two mistakes, capitalize, and win the game, right? Juventus, we don't know their style of play. Every game is different, right? You play Inter and you win 4-3, and now you play Milan and you're a mirror image of what Max Allegri wants to do, which we haven't seen Juventus do once this season. And I'm not saying that in a positive way, right? Sometimes teams can adapt in what they need to do and do what they need to do in specific games to get all 3 points or 1 point if needed. This is not a positive adaptation or adapting in my opinion on what Tudor is doing, right? I don't think Tudor's plan was to come out here and be park the bus. I just think that's how it played out. So I would agree, definitely better for Milan because this is 100% the way that Allegri talked to his team throughout the week, how he wanted the game to go, and they just didn't take their chances, which is going to happen in soccer. And Juventus, we're left with, hey, we got 2 weeks for the international break, and next game, who knows what they're going to look like? They could score 4, they could score 0, they could try to defend. You don't know what you're going to get. So agreed with you there. Definitely better from a Milan perspective.
Yeah, and I think both of you talking about this really, I think what shone through in this game was Allegri, been around, been in big games, been a big team manager, been a big club manager, has a direction. Every single game, there is a plan. You know exactly what the plan is. This is probably one of those games that he circled. Okay, we're going to Juve. We're playing them at the Allianz. We don't need 3 points. If we get it, we'll take it. But this is a 1 point game for Allegri. And he has that mentality of, okay, these are the games where we can try to get the 3. These are the games where we'll take a 1. And he has that like calculator that he's done before the season. How do we get enough points to get into the Champions League? And he has that mentality. For Tudor, exactly like you said, more of a newer manager, first time with the big club manager. It's not there. There isn't a game plan. And what's crazy about it, though, I will say, Juve haven't lost yet. And it's been like, what's wrong with Tudor? What needs to change? I mean, that's even what we're going to really want to talk about today is what needs to change. But at the end of the day, 3 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses. So it's not all disaster, but it's kind of like, okay, how are you going to get better? And when you go back to last season, very similar to Thiago Motta, like Logue said at the beginning of this episode, ghost of Thiago Motta pass. They didn't concede goals, they didn't lose games, but they didn't generate that offense. So if you're not getting better, you're just going to continue to get worse. And that's kind of what it's been like going back to last season. And I think what is working against Tudor, as opposed to some other managers, is he did take over at the end of last year and got a couple games. So it feels like he's been at Juventus for a very long time, but it's actually a little bit less than we actually think. I think the Club World Cup also makes it a little tough for him. So I think that is going his way. But where I want to start this conversation with is with Juventus themselves, because last week we talked about it's the front 3. He's not getting that right. Now I'm kind of changing where my standpoint is. Is it totally the formation? Is it tactically? Is everything even right? And that's why I'm going to go to you, Mats, because what does need to change? Because everything has kind of gone right in a way for them. They beat Inter Milan at home. Like, you tied Milan, not really the end of the world, but something isn't right. And that is what we keep going back to with Juventus.
Yeah, 100%. I think the shout of maybe a new formation is a good shout. It seems like Tudor has flexibility, but he's not willing. The one area where he's not willing to be flexible is this 4-3-2-1. I think that in most games we get overran in the midfield because we're only playing a 2-man midfield, and Locatelli has to drop so far back because Kelly, Bremer when he's in with Rugani too, Gatti, Kalulu, none of them are very good on the ball or necessarily are looking to have the ball at their feet. So Locatelli has to drop back and go receive the ball. And then that now we have one guy in the midfield, right? Or sometimes Cambiaso will tuck himself in. Kelly will go further out. But Cambiaso, he's too lackadaisical and dribble heavy to be in the midfield. He does not like to do the 1-2 quick passes. So I don't love him tucking in. So I do want to go to a new formation. I would prefer the 4-3-3. I think we have the players to do it. I think we have the depth to do it. Have I seen any reports on them thinking about it? No. Do I think it will be beneficial for them? Yes, but I don't know if we're going to see that anytime soon.
I think the other thing that really shone through in this game in particular was, and I don't want to knock Conceição here. I thought he actually had a great game for the minutes that he put in, but It's
I
just
thought
so
he was the
very
best
clear.
player on the pitch, to be honest with you.
No, 100%. That's why I don't want to knock him at all. I'm just saying that clearly they need Yildiz to run the offense. They need Yildiz to make an impact on a game-by-game basis for them to actually make chances, get chances going, quality chances, that is. And, Tomori, for what it's worth, had a great game here. I think it's a ton of team defense that went into the effort to shut off Yildiz, but this is kind of where he still has that progression to make as the number 10, as the star boy, as the best player here on Juventus. And that's to always be able to find a way to make an impact. He needs to be able to figure out what part of the game he's going to attack and make sure that he is being pointed in that direction. Now, I don't think Milan's low block this game worked wonders, worked to a T. Of course, that's what they were going for, that 0-0 draw away. That's Allegri special. If this is not going to be the only time that Juve faces a low block. Juve is going to be the better team in a lot of these games that they play in Serie A and maybe even other competitions. He just needs to find a way because he was incredibly quiet and out of this game. From my standpoint.
I think the thing that's difficult about Yildiz is that he's not like a Nico Paz where like he can just kind of pick a place on the field and like, okay, I'm not having success here, let me go over here. Yildiz is getting the ball in really specific situations. And I think part of it is, yes, like you always need him to step up, but I wrote about this actually. They need another guy on the team that can take some of that pressure off because Yildiz, as good as he is, isn't a guy that is really capable of just completely taking games over. He's capable of having big moments in games, but he's not a completely takeover, I can do everything kind of player. And I think Tudor is kind of seeing him as that. It's like Yildiz will just figure it out for us. And I don't think that's the recipe.
100%, and he's done it to an extent, but he can only do so much. Once again, he's a 20-year-old player. He still has a lot to learn, a lot more growth that is going to come in his game right now. And I would say that this is the case for most people in the world. If you throw 3 men at a guy, he's not going to be able to get by 3 men. So it has to come from somebody else. And I don't think that's a huge ask where, hey, guys, I have 3 guys on me. I'm laying it off. Make a quick 1-2, create something off of the attention that I'm getting. And that right now is what we're missing. Jonathan David, can he create the 1-2? Yes, but right now he's lacking the end product, the execution in the final third. He missed an open net goal in the Champions League against Villarreal. He lost his footing on a very good opportunity in the box against Milan. So he's still trying to figure out the league. I don't want Juventus fans to kill him right away because this is what happens when you join a new league. Conceição, whereas he was great, he wants to do one thing, and it's he needs to slow the game down, take his man on 1-on-1 or 2-on-1, go to the byline or cut in. What we need in this exact situation is quick 1-2, give and go, pass around the low block. You can't really dribble by or take on a man in the low block because you just run into the next man. To get through a low block, you need to be good in tight spaces, quick 1-2, know where my guy is on the flick. And that's what we're missing right now. And the only striker that can do it is Jonathan David. He's lacking the end product, though. Dusan can't do that. Openda can't do it. Conceição wants to, like I said, just dribble and take on his man. Zagrova, kind of the same thing. So that's what we're lacking is the classic 1-2 chemistry that we have in the final third.
I think part of the problem that they've been running into is that, like, to create those effective 1-2s, you need to create overloads somehow. And I think a big part of the issue with Juve is Cambiasso and Kalulu have been pretty much not contributing offensively. And
Kalulu can barely
Kalulu,
contribute.
that's not his fault. Like, right? Yeah. Like, you know what Kalulu is. He's more of a right back or a center back. Cambiasso, I think, needs to get benched, like, because he's been so bad and not effective. But like what I was saying earlier, I think the solution now is go to the 4-3-3 and add another midfielder, because the other way you can kind of create these overloads is allowing another midfielder to make late runs into the box. And I think that would help in a lot of cases. Like in this game, we saw Weston McKennie be very dangerous, although he didn't have any clear-cut chances, I wouldn't say. But him making those late runs into the box was very effective. The problem with that is when you're running a 2-man midfield, you can't have 2 guys do it. And Locatelli never does it because that's not really what his thing is. And I think Locatelli has been exceptional all year, but the position he's playing kind of calls for 2 more midfielders to be playing ahead of him. And I think what Tudor is probably reluctant to do is play a back 4 because he doesn't really trust Gatti and Bremer to do it. And I think that with how highly everybody rates Bremer you have to try. And I think he hasn't been great in back twos before, but I think if you're going to say he's as good as he is, he has to be able to do that. And I think we're getting close to the point where Tudor either needs to take that risk or his job is going to be on the line.
I think his job is getting on the line already. I see a lot of Juventus fans on Twitter calling for his job. I think that they're doing that because it's more of the same under Motta, being that Juventus just draws every game again. And then it's also what he has working against him at every time, no matter which way he turns, is he's never been at a club like this before, right? He's always been at a lower level club fighting relegation. He's never been at a top level club. So he doesn't necessarily, he might have played here, but he's never coached it. So people want a coach that has kind of been there and done that. So Tudor, every kind of stumble is amplified and magnified because he doesn't have necessarily the pedigree of a history. So I do think that his job, we tie a couple more games in a row or drop more points, people could be calling for his head very quickly.
All right, cool. Good Juve discussion. On Milan now, probably, like you said, kind of feel like they lost 2 points more than like, oh, we got 1 point. And that's particularly because Pulisic missed a penalty, and then Rafael Leao kind of squandered 2 pretty big chances, although I think they weren't as clear-cut as everybody has made them out to be. But coming out of this game, Logs, there are some positives, but biggest concern for you?
Well, a couple of positives. And first and foremost, am I happy that we in theory dropped 2 points here? No. Am I happy with getting 4 points out of a 2 match weeks in a row going Napoli, Juve away? Yes, 100%, especially going into an international break here. We have a little bit of time to recoup. Some guys will get some rest. Some guys are obviously playing for their national team. But for me, when coming into the season during our previews, how we felt after Cremonese, having these 2 back-to-back results for me, I can be content with. I'm not going to say I'm ecstatic nor happy. And you know, I think last week you were surprised at how level-headed I was, but I knew that this euphoric run that we foresaw after Napoli wasn't going to continue 100%. One thing that has continued, Mike Maignan between the pipes, absolutely stupendous. Back to the old days of Mike Maignan. Really, the only thing stopping him is his injury woes. And if he can stay out of the off the injury list, then I don't see why this can't continue. It seemed like he's got his mojo back. He feels very comfortable between there, and it's not overlooked that the back three is performing and that our team defense is absolutely awesome. Certainly helps to have a little bit better of a team of 11 or I guess 10 men in front of Maignan, but certainly cat-like reflexes back there. Unbelievable stop against Gatti. So happy to see Maignan back to the form that we know he can get to. Now, my biggest concern for this Milan team is, up until the beginning of the season, through the first couple of games, I was talking about the defense, that Tomori just doesn't have it anymore. Gabi is very unathletic. Pavlovic can't touch the ball other than clearing it. Those guys have proven me wrong thus far. I thought Gabbia had a great game breaking lines, helping out with getting through that press when Modric wasn't an option. So very happy to see that. Like I already said, Tomori being able to lock up Yildiz for a decent amount of this game, I thought was rather promising. And then Pavlovic and Bartasagi on the left side was okay. Nothing stupendous out of there. Tough matchup against Conceição, just being the fact that these guys 6'5", 6'4", respectively, against a 5'6", 5'7" Conceição, who's unbelievable on the ball. Not going to be their strength, but again, a 0-0 scoreline says a lot about our defense. Biggest concern is up front now. This Milan team is one cold-blooded killer away from winning a ton of games. I think Santi Jimenez had his best game in a Milan kit this past weekend. A bunch of good chances, really found himself on that first chance where passed up giving the ball to Pulisic, but kind of used Pulisic as a diversion, got past the center backs onto his left foot, his strong left foot. A strong shot, just happened to be right at Di Gregorio. So obviously nothing to say about Di Gregorio there. Was on a header that probably should have gone in. Again, he's rusty. He's not in form right now, but I thought his positioning, I thought his energy, and I thought that his willpower in this game was incredibly promising. But from a finishing standpoint, we've had Christian Pulisic be that guy. He misses a PK in this game. I think we've missed 5 of the last 12 penalty shots over the last 2 seasons, which is just horrid numbers. From a Milan perspective, I saw somebody tweet or posted a video of back in the day, penalties were just a formality, and it was just a highlight of Kessié scoring every penalty shot. But if Leao comes back into this lineup and doesn't shake off this rust and does not mold into a striker position that Allegri is seemingly not going to change just for Leao for, which is a little bit weird considering when there was conversations about maybe selling Leao at the beginning of the transfer window when Teo was the other option to sell. Allegri and Tari were 100% Leao's our guy. We're going to build this team around Leao. We're not, we're going to make sure that he's positioned the best to excel this season. And having two strikers up top is not going to be Leao's preferred position. He's already come out last week and said that. So if Leao doesn't come out of this injury woe, this 1 month injury off of this international break and find a way to fit into that 2-9 system up top, I don't see a way that he continues to play. I mean, again, very rusty, very, very great opportunity on the cross from Pulisic, boofs it, lefty, not even deflected. It looked like it was incredibly deflected to the outside of the net, just not even close to being on target, no deflection. And then the 1v1 off a great ball from Modric, boofs it, kind of just gets over the top of it. I know he's been out for a month. I know he didn't really have too much of a preseason this summer, but my concerns are how do we get him into this system where Christian has been playing very well. Santi Jimenez and Nkunku is more of their natural positions there. I have concerns with Leao. I have concerns with the fact that we don't have a killer up front, and that's really going to hurt us in games where we need to get goals. Not every game could be 0-0. Right? That's Motta got fired for that last year. Maybe not 0-0, but we can't have draws for the entire season. That's not what's going to get us in top 4. So that's where my newfound anxiety around this team is coming through.
I think Leao fits better into this team than Pulisic, to be honest with you. I think Leao does more of the stuff that Allegri wants the off-striker guy to do. I think we see a lot of Pulisic in this game kind of coming under Santi Jimenez when Santi Jimenez is like trying to get the ball at his feet. And Leao's the guy that's going to really stretch the field more. So I think when he does get back, he is actually going to be more effective than Pulisic is. What I don't think is going to happen...
More effective than Pulisic, who's scored or assisted in the last 5 games besides this one.
I do think Leao is going to work better, to be honest. I honestly do. He's a way better give me the ball and let me kill 5 guys player than Pulisic is. Pulisic is much more a team player, yes. And he does all the pressing better, yes. But Leao is a better soccer player than Pulisic, in my opinion. And I think in this Allegri system, that second striker, it kind of comes down to, do you have a guy that can just kill a bunch of guys on one run? And I think that Leao is better than Pulisic. And I don't see a situation where they're ever playing together in this team. I mean, all the stuff that Santi Jimenez does, regardless of his inability to score, they don't even create the chances they're creating without Santi Jimenez doing all of the work he's doing to occupy the center back, to get a ball, make a terrible run that's brutal, and it's like 50 yards and you don't even get the ball. Like, all those things. He's not on the score sheet, but he was a extremely important piece in this game. And I also think Allegri sees that, and it really shines through, which is why he's continued to be started game after game after game after game. And I don't see that changing. I mean, even when Dusan Vlahovic was bad, Allegri kept rolling him out there. Like, this is what Allegri will do. Like, he has one thing he wants, and he'll just roll out this guy that can do it.
Juventus didn't have anyone else to play, so that's one of the reasons. I think that, number one, I think if Milan are struggling to score goals on one game a week with your 4 options being Christian Pulisic, Rafael Leao, and Nkunku, and then Jimenez, you got some problems there. Like, those 4 players are good enough to get you 1 goal in 90 minutes.
Hence my concerns.
How are you concerned?
I think that's Allegri, though. That's not that's how they want to play. Like, they want to get 1 or 2 chances a game, and like
you're not going to be putting up 3, 4, and that's what happens when you have Allegri. Like, I would argue that those 4 players could get you 3, 4 goals a game if that's the type of soccer you were trying to play. That's not the type of soccer Allegri is going to play. So I don't necessarily think that you guys are going to struggle scoring goals, especially with the way that those players all counterattack. That's how Allegri's setting them up. The way that you have Modric pulling the strings, it can pick a pass at any point in time in the game to one of those players. And I would, in my opinion, I would rotate these 2 as much as possible to figure out what can work. Can Leao and Pulisic play together when they're both healthy? Can Nkunku play as the number 9 and have Pulisic or Leao off of him? And we've already seen Jimenez. I think, yes, Vos, I do agree he puts in those hard miles. But the reason why, in my opinion, that he's been playing every game is because Allegri has said Nkunku doesn't have 90 minutes in his leg.
That's true.
And Leao's injured. So I think once those 2 have 90 minutes, it's going to be different. And I'm interested to see who he rolls out there. But I don't think it'd be a crazy thing to roll out Pulisic on the right and Leao on the left. He did it for 10 minutes in this game before he subbed Christian off. So I don't think that's a crazy idea. I would try every option and see kind of who plays the best.
No, and to your point, Mons, yes, this front four should be able to get, I would say, 2 goals a game. I would say on average that front four should be averaging 2 goals a game. And the Allegri of the past, I totally understand that that's the play style that he wants. But let's not forget that there is a player now on the pitch that has never been at Allegri, or I guess in Allegri 2's disposal, in Luka Modric, who is not just going to sit back and be happy with a 0-0 draw like this. He has been able to effectively make almost all of our offensive chances, put players in the right spot. The ball that Luka Modric played to Santi Jimenez when Lloyd Kelly tackled him, don't know how that wasn't a card at all, but the ball that he played was so pinpoint perfect, it landed on Santi Jimenez's head when he was on the ground. That was one of the best balls I've ever seen. Luka Modric does that 3-4 times a game here. And so the fact that we have him pulling the strings, as you say, being the puppeteer in the back, having that what you would think as firepower up front means that even though we're playing that Corto Musso style, we're going to get chances. We had, I would call it, 4 or 5 really good chances this game. I think that that's a fine number to be going with, and you should be converting 40% of those chances. But that's what I'm trying to say is we don't have that cold-blooded killer up top that's going to get that done. Pulisic, again, has been that guy, but I don't want to lean on Pulisic for the entire season to be the cold-blooded killer. I think Santi Jimenez's left foot can do it. I think Rafael Leao can do it. And Kunku has proven that he's a 50-goal contribution guy a season. So that my concern is that Allegri hasn't been able to get them to that next step. Maybe he's completely focused on making a fortress in the back, which he's on the doorstep of doing. We've given up the second least amount of goals this season after Roma. And so if there's a way to improve this team, it's 100% on the front line, not from a personnel perspective, but just from an execution perspective. That's where we lack, is in execution.
Dude, what I think you need to get in your head mentally is Allegri is not going to change what they want to do. You have it in your head that at some point they're going to start being
Flexing
more
their
creative
muscles,
and go out there.
But that's
and,
what I just said. He doesn't need to be that guy.
I know,
Allegri, it doesn't matter what Allegri wants to do because Modric is going to do what he wants to do.
But
Modric can only do so much even because there's nobody to really pass the ball to. Because you get these couple passes a game and you get those 4 you get 4 or 5 chances a game on a good day kind of thing. But you're not really just gonna flex muscles like Mott's is saying. And this is why Mott's got so sick of Allegri at Juve at the end, because they were getting points. They finished top 4, but it was we actually are terrible to watch. We don't really do anything. Sometimes we win, most of the time we draw kind of thing. And even still, how you're talking about Milan, it's we're going to get to this point where all these things are happening offensively, and that's not going to happen. It's going to be like this no matter who the opposition is. I think in this game, they had a lot of the ball, yes, but it's not risk-taking when you're on the ball. How many times do we see Rabiot? They literally didn't even attack on the right side. It just give the ball to Rabiot on the left. 90% of the time, he's just going to pass the ball backwards because he's not going to lose the ball. Then once in a while, Modric will get an opportunity to put a ball in. But there's going to be no risk-taking, and it's going to be a lot of games like this. And that's not going to change.
I'd also say that even if you do have a cold-blooded 9, in soccer, you need multiple chances to put away a goal, right? Very rarely are you going to find a guy that you give him one chance, he's getting a goal, right? Obviously, that's the idea, but you need 2 or 3 chances to get that goal. And that's Allegri's style, is we create 4 chances total in the game, and hopefully we can make 2 of those. So even if, and I think that you have the guys to do that already. Sure, you don't have maybe a pure number 9 like a Dusan or a Dovbyk, and I'm not saying
a Randall
over Kolo Muani.
I thought we were going to get through one episode without talking about Muani.
No, I mean, you put him on this team, and oh my goodness, that's also what Juventus is missing. I didn't want to say it because Logan is always getting on me for bringing it up, but there is a 2 times now where Luis Openda cannot trap the ball, and if he could trap the ball, it'd be a real chance and a real opportunity that Randall Kolo Muani would have been able to trap and score. But going back to Milan, the attack, I don't think is the problem at all. You have 4 guys, 4 very good guys who have been there, done that in leagues. Leao's been an MVP. Pulisic has the most goal contribution since the start of last season. Jimenez was able to do it. in a different league, so trying to figure it out. And then Nkunku is a beast. But one more thing that I want to add, I am done considering stats that players get in the Bundesliga to be real stats. That is, they play the highest lines. Everyone in the Bundesliga, they have their career year there, and then they get sold, and then they stink anywhere else because no one plays as high as the line as every single German team. So I'm done believing those stats. With that said, I think Nkunku is a great player, and I think he can easily be that cold-blooded killer number 9 guy that will put in his chances that he gets.
I really freaking hope so. Because I'm not going the entire season scoring 1 or 2 goals a game. I refuse.
Dude, this is what I just said
I'm
to
not
you.
gonna get. I'm not getting. I don't care. I'm not getting it through my head. I want more. I want more goals. I'm not sitting through a season of 1 or 2 goals. I'm not doing it.
I'm
not doing it,
dude.
I'm not doing it.
No,
I'm going to will this team into being a goal scoring machine. Once we get this whole defense solidified, once Coney de Winter gets more minutes, all right. Once we get the defense all flattened out, Mike Maignan saving everything between the pipes, Luka Modric is going to will this
the defense
team
is already
into
done.
3-4 goals a game.
I mean,
3-4 goals a game.
That's in order to get 3 to 4 goals a game, you need to open up the way that you play. Allegri is not going to do that. He's not going to open up the way that you play because then that also allows more goals to be conceded. And that is what you had last year. And you guys finished in 8th place. You had goals, but you had conceded as well. So can't have, we're going to win every game 3-0 because we have the players to do it. We get the cold-blooded 9, and now we've shored up the defense and we're scoring 3 goals a game. That doesn't happen.
It's going to happen.
All right, done with Milan. That lasted way too long to begin with. We're keeping it rolling. The other game we wanted to talk about for a bit, Roma at Fiorentina. Roma won this one 2-1, and we're going to talk about Roma in a second, but we want to spend some time on Fiorentina here because we've kind of been glancing over them all year. They are now one of 4 teams left without a win. Just about a year ago, Fiorentina beat Roma 4-0 in this same game. And what a tale of 2 different things. Like Roma really turned things around. Fiorentina was flying high with Palladino. He left at the end of the season, and now we're kind of at rock bottom, I would say. Like, it could get worse, and they could continue to lose games, but 6 games without a win for Fiorentina on a roster that we've talked about time and time and time again is should be competing for top 4, really. And Pioli is still there. I mean, it's an international break starting right now. This is the first day of that break. This is usually when you sack somebody if you're going to. Is there any reason to keep Pioli at this point?
No. He's been completely ineffective at the managerial spot here. Again, especially since we were incredibly happy with the performance that Fiorentina put on throughout the entire season last year under Palladino. A very surprising sacking, as we've talked about before. But this team has only gotten better over the summer, and Pioli seems to not be able to put the pieces together to effectively make this team into a Champions League or a European spot contender. Currently 17th in the league. They are one of 4 teams with no wins. The other 3 teams are in the relegation spots. This Fiorentina team deserves better, can be better, will be better once they sack Pioli. And I don't see why you wait until after your international break.
I would agree. I think you have to sack him. And I think I take a more cautious approach in letting a guy play out a contract or have a year. But the difference here is Pioli he's been there, he's done that, he knows the league, he's won a Scudetto, he has the pedigree to kind of earn the right to be like, we should be doing well, right? Whereas in Palladino's case, he came from Monza, so it was, all right, now I'm managing 3 games a week. It's a different step up, but Pioli's been at this level and he's not putting out the results needed. That paired with he doesn't know what the best formation is for his team. He rolls out a new formation every time, and to not be playing a 3-man midfield on this Fiorentina team makes absolutely no sense. They have such good players in the midfield that they should be rolling out a 3-man midfield every single game, and it should very easily. It's so simple, and it kind of goes back to what Ranieri did last year with Roma and just simplifying it. It's soccer when it comes down to it, and when things aren't going right, simplify it to where a first grader could figure it out. Hans Nicolucci Caviglia, Mondragola, and Fagioli are 3 very good, solid midfielders that should be playing every single game. I have 2 very good strikers, Gudmundsson and Moise Kean. Let me play with those 5 players on the pitch, although Gudmundsson has been struggling. you need to play with those players. What I'd also say where Fiorentina struggles is they don't have any wingers, right? They don't have anybody on the width besides really Gosens and Dodo. So you have to get the most out of them. So why he's not rolling out a 3-5-2 every single game, I'm not sure. It's screaming the players that they have, but he rolls a different one every single time, trying to figure out things that don't need to be figured out. I would call for him. I would sack him. I don't know who you would maybe replace him with. Maybe we can talk about that next, but I think that he has to go. They can't score, they can't defend, they have no ideas. You can't have not one positive from this team in the first 5 games of the season, 6 games of the season.
Apart from playing
and just-
Fazzini. I think that's the only positive, but I still don't think he should be playing, no matter how good he's been.
Well, just to build off of what Mott's saying and what we keep continuing to talk about of how deep this team is and why, like, it's actually insane that Pioli hasn't figured out how to get them at least a little bit better here is even in this game, we didn't see Fagioli, and you still have Amir Richardson on the bench that Fiorentina specifically had on loan last year and made it a permanent deal. Gigantic 10, huge, a little bit skinny on the weight side, but a very good player that could fill in that third midfielder role as well. And let's not forget that Piccoli is now in this team that had an unbelievable season at Cagliari last year. So why you're not playing 2 9s up top makes no sense. And that formation really gets the best out of your 2 best players from last year, aside from Moise Kean and Robin Gosens and Dodo, like you said, Mats. So I think the picture is clear. It's now trying to find a manager that you can hire that will play and will get the best out of the 22, 23 players that they have at their disposal.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Lewis, because at the end of the day, like when you look at this and what he's trying to do and the different formations that I don't even know what he's trying to do, but the different formations he used, he clearly does not know how to use the players that are there. Very simply, which means you got to get him out of there. That's it. Like if he can't use the team that you've created, you have hired the wrong man and you need to go find somebody else who can do it. I think Gudmundsson is the best example. He's been terrible all this year.
Terrible.
But that's because the player that he is a key that unlocks things. But to do that, you have to have some sort of tactical plan that he can work in to do that. And that you're getting nothing out of him. You're getting nothing out of Moise Kean. And it's just like embarrassing to this point. And now we can kind of go with, this is kind of a unique situation that doesn't come around a lot because ordinarily when you're sacking somebody at the beginning of the season, there's nobody available. We're in a position right now where there are a ton of guys that are available. Granted, there's probably a very low chance they can get Palladino again, but Palladino does not have a job right now, which is insanity. Paolo Vanoli from last year who got sacked by Torino, who I thought shouldn't have been sacked by Torino, is available. Spalletti is available. De Rossi is available. You said Thiago Motta last week, Mats. There's all these guys out there that are probably a step in the right direction compared to what's going on right now. And I don't know how you're not pulling the chute already on this guy. Like it has to be over at some point.
You're treating it like he's royalty in Serie A, which to give him his flowers, sure. He's a Scudetto winner. He's been around a long time, but just cut the cord. This guy is on life support right now. Fiorentina's on life support. This is about the time that De Rossi got sacked last year, which, for
and
better or worse.
It was going way better under De Rossi too.
And it was going way better for De Rossi. Unfortunately, there was some politics in the background there, but at some point, it almost gets too late to make a move, or it's going to be detrimental to your season. And like Mott said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, if Roma turns that ship around 3-4 games earlier, they have a very good chance at being, in that mix for the top for
True.
number 1.
That's a good point.
Number 2, number 3.
That's a very good
They
point.
probably get Champions League if they turn it around 2 or 3 games.
100%. So Fiorentina here being in 17th, not 13th, like we were talking about Roma last year, 17th. No wins through 6. Pull the cord now. Get restart as soon as possible. You're lucky that the roster is strong enough to make that turnaround, but take advantage of the only thing that you have on your side right now, which is time.
One more thing, and this goes, I should have mentioned this on my first tangent, but and I know that the Conference League teams are obviously not as strong as like a Roma, but I mean, 2 games ago they played pieces, but the point I'm trying to make here is he did roll out a 3-5-2 in the Conference League and they won 2-0. And he played Piccoli and Dzeko. So he's rotated. He did a good job there rotating the squad. And then he comes into the next game and he plays the 3-4-2-1. So it doesn't make any sense. And it's just more evidence on why you should be moving on from him. And I think that what Palladino did so well last year that I think like a Motta could do really well with, or De Rossi, is something that you've always mentioned, Vos, in terms of why Pioli won't be good, is that De Rossi and Motta and Palladino, to me, their systems, the way you play in the system, will allow players to score goals. You just have to do the parameters of which their system asks you to do, which for Motta, it is possess the ball more. It's pass it around, wait for mistakes. For De Rossi, it's overloads high up the pitch. They're going to allow you to score. Pioli, they don't have a how-to or a go-to or a guide or a rhyme or a reason to do what they do. It's just throw the ball up to Moise Kean and let him hit a screamer of a goal and muscle a guy, or have Piccoli hit a crazy volley that hits the crossbar. It's moments of magic that they're relying on and not style of play. And those other managers will bring a style of play to these players that we saw needed that last year.
And I think what it making this a little bit more interesting that Mats, you did allude to before we hopped on here, kind of the managerial carousel might be happening a little bit. We saw today Tudor kind of on the hot seat. If Tudor goes, it seems like Spalletti is the first guy there. The other guy that might be coming available is Marco Baroni at Torino, who's kind of on the hot seat as well. So like these are guys that are very good managers that could very well, like you could see a Baroni on a Fiorentina in 2 weeks kind of thing. Like it could really happen. I mean, I think Spalletti could do a lot with this team, to be honest with you. I think that's a challenge he might be willing to take on as well, depending on what happens with Juventus, because I think when he took over Napoli, it was kind of similar area. I think probably a little bit better Napoli, but it would be interesting for me.
I would love to see Palladino on the Juventus sideline. I know he's never he's never managed a Champions League. He did the 3 competitions last year. They had highs, they had lows. I don't even remember what month it is. I was trying to Google it while we were having the conversation. I couldn't find it, but it was early on. It was either September or October, maybe might have been November, but I really think it was October. But Palladino had Fiorentina top of the table.
I think it was
manager
October.
of the month.
It was October
manager of the
last
month.
year.
Like he's a good manager. He has his system. It's not as direct. It's more possession based. But I would love to see him
And like
classic
think about like
Juve,
what he
classic
what he was,
Juve taking all
we
of
can move on
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina, but like now that we're just talking about Palladino, like think about what he did to the players. Like revitalized Moise Kean, got Mondragora to be like this amazing box to box goal scorer. Got a lot out of Fagioli and had to use him in different areas. Got the most out of Dodo and Gozens, who are guys who have been in the league for a while. And like that's kind of what you want Pioli to do, but he's not even close to doing that. And that's what you expect of Pioli.
Take a step back and think about what Palladino did at Monza.
Yeah,
he left. Monza somewhat got picked apart. Not a whole lot of players left. Palladino left 10th. His 2 seasons with Monza, I think 10th and 11th or 12th. They were middle of the table. Do not have to worry about relegation. He leaves, worst team in the league. Like that shows how good of a manager he is.
I don't know how he's not on a club. It makes zero sense.
I know he's helping out the national team right now.
Hey, that'd be sick
get him
if
out of
he
there.
just took over. That would be very cool. Okay, but flipping it over, I want to talk about Roma a little bit. Logs, you don't really love Roma still, but notable in this one, they went back to the 3-5-2 with the kind of like the attacking mid. In this game, it was Baldanzi with Dovbyk and Mateus Sule again. In this one, Mateus Sule goal and assist, Dovbyk with an assist, and then Brian Cristante had a goal as well. So kind of not tinkering with that midfield two of Kona and Cristante. I don't think it's been fireworks by any means, but it's been very pragmatic. It's been very effective. They're not really conceding goals. The bigger thing is still who is the number 9 going to be and who is the number 10 going to be. Dovbyk had a pretty bad miss in this one on a Wesley cross. Overall, just was kind of ineffective. What I'll give Gasperini credit for is he's giving him a couple run of games here. He did score, gave him another chance. So maybe in 2 weeks we see Ferguson come back in. It's going to be weird. I thought Baldanzi was very bad in this one. I would be surprised to see him again. But Gasperini still tinkering, got more to do, did give away chances. This game could have gone the other way, I will say. And then the other notable thing is Dybala came back from his injury. He played well, so now that's another kind of wrinkle in the picture here, because now you have Pellegrini competing, Dovbyk, Ferguson, and now Dybala. And that's not even including El Shaarawy, who I think has kind of just been condemned to the bench for time being.
And Leon Bailey's still hurt.
Still hurt, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's good for Gasperini to keep on tinkering. The Dovbyk assist wasn't really an assist. It was kind of like a miss hit, and then Sule just right place, right time. Fantastic
Fantastic
goal. Yeah. on the one time curved it far post, great goal. And then another great assist on the corner with Cristante was a good finish. But like we mentioned last game, Soulé is the clear cut, the cemented player in this lineup, and he's trying to figure out who's playing off of him. One notable thing I will say is that Evan Ferguson did not even get a game or get a minute in this game. Normally he's been putting in Ferguson in like the 60th, 70th, or Dovbyk, whoever he's not starting. He did not get a run there. But I will say, I think Dovbyk's leash is probably going to be he's at the end of his leash now, especially due to this game parlayed with what happened earlier in midweek when Dovbyk missed 2 PKs in a row. And then Soulé stepped up and also missed it. So 3 PKs in a row Roma missed. But I think that with this game, Vic might be on the bench for Evan Ferguson next game. But another crazy stat that I saw on Twitter, and I'll actually cite my sources here because it was Matteo that tweeted this, or maybe he said it. I don't remember if he said it or tweeted it, but Evan Ferguson has 1 goal in his last 50 club appearances. Pretty poor. Not good. Talk about cold-blooded killer for a 9 there, Lokes.
Well, what I will say in Evan Ferguson's defense is his loan spell last year in the Prem was horrendous, and again, it was coming off of a pretty big injury. So not gonna say that has a huge effect on my opinion on Evan Ferguson, but I don't love to see 1 goal in 50 appearances. That is not a recipe for success. If I may, this Roma team just does not do it for me. I don't want to come across as a hater. I had them pretty high in my table at the beginning of the season, but I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing the juice that I thought I would see with Gasperini coming in. Again, he's still tinkering. I get it. Brand new team after 9 years with Atalanta. So, he's getting used to even just having a brand new roster, but it's just not doing it for me here. This Fiorentina team, who was in complete shambles under Pioli, had chances to win this game. Keane goes off the post on a great shot. Piccoli on a absolutely magical hit from 30 yards out, goes off the crossbar. Gozens at the end of the game there probably should have put one away. This could have easily have been a 2-2 draw. So a couple of things just go right for Fiorentina, which clearly they just aren't. It's just not happening for La Viola. This Roma team has a draw here, right? And I get it. Logs, what the fuck are you saying? Roma, top of the table, least goals allowed in the entire Serie A. But who have they played? And Mats, you said this before the episode, but I know they don't make their schedule. I'm not saying they do. But to use Roma as top of the table, least goals scored against, doesn't do it for me either. They've played Verona, who just lost to Sassuolo. They played Torino, who I think is absolute dog shit. They played Pisa, who's bottom of the table and will stay there until the eternity of time. And they tied Torino, or they beat Lazio. Beat Lazio.
They beat Lazio.
Who's in 13th place.
I mean, you conveniently omitted Bologna from that list, I will say.
Yeah, and
Bologna,
it's not
and
like
they played
Fiorentina
Bologna.
are struggling, but they have a good team. Lazio struggling, good team. Pisa, like I said earlier, but they've been in every single game they played. I don't know.
No, they have not. Pisa's terrible. Torino's terrible.
Go look at this.
Verona, not very good. So my whole point
in
here
every
is
game that they played as well.
That this Roma team's time at the top of the table is dwindling, and I've been saying it for a couple of weeks. I can't wait for them to play the real teams in this league.
Well, they've got Inter Milan next,
and let the gauntlet begin, because I think that this is going to be a ship that's going to have some rocky waves going forward.
So also, I know that we should have quickly touched upon this before we moved on to Roma, but that actually reminded me of Fiorentina's upcoming games in terms of, do they sack him now or later? You have Milan next, and I'm not going to include the Conference League and when I rattle these off. So remember that they have a Conference League game twice at coming up, but they have Milan, Sassuolo, which is kind of a gimme, but then you got Como, Atalanta, Juventus, and that's a tough 5 games.
I think Sass beats them if Pioli's still there, to be honest with you. I'm a big Sass guy right now.
Sass gets a point out of that game, at least.
Give me
Roma's schedule. Give me Roma's schedule.
Roma have Inter, Europa League, Cagliari, Torino, Napoli, Cremonese.
Torino again?
Oh, that's the Coppa Italia. So they have
Inter, Sass, Parma, Milan, Udinese, Cremonese. They have a great schedule coming up. Holy shit.
No. That's the opposite way. They have Inter, Cagliari, Napoli, Cremonese.
What are you talking about, Cagliari, dude? All right, to set the
What are
record
you talking
straight,
about?
Paisans. We got
You're
Roma.
right.
Roma
yeah.
plays
Marino, shut
Inter,
up.
Sassuolo, Parma, Milan, Udinese, Cremonese, and that takes them to December. I'll leave it at that. Whoever made this Roma schedule, I mean, hats off. Hats off to you guys. But let me tell you, this Inter game is certainly not going to be a walk in the park, of course. I think they're at the San Siro. Nope, they're at home. All right, so fine. They get Inter at home, so even a little bit of a buffer there. Then they've got Milan at the San Siro a couple weeks later. Mark my goddamn words here. Come November 2nd, when Milan wins 2-0 at home against Roma, you'll be hearing from me. You'll be hearing from me.
We hear from you on your Milan rant every week. So to bring things full circle on Roma, my last question that I do want to talk about, because we haven't seen it yet, and like we've been going back and forth, that Gasperini hasn't quite gotten the front three right yet. Do you guys see any way that you see there's a Ferguson and Dovbyk with Sule kind of behind them? I think it's possible. I think it might work, actually.
I don't hate it.
I don't think that he wants to play Dovbyk that badly, though.
The way that he's been approaching every game up to this point is I'm figuring it out as I go. Why not run those two out there with Sule behind them? I also think, and Bose, you've said this before, Ferguson's able to come deep and be kind of more of a target man than an advanced forward. So I think it could work for sure.
And I don't know what they're going to do with Dybala. I'm out on Dybala Sule playing together, to be honest. Like, I'm fully done with that.
Well, they played 20 minutes together this game. I think that the best thing that Gasperini can do for Dybala is keep his minutes to 30 max and coming in at the 60th minute like he did in this game.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'll say this point, and then we'll move on from Roma. But I saw that they are meeting with Dybala to talk about an extension on a contract. Gonna be honest with me, doesn't fit. I know Dybala, what he brings. He probably sells tickets, sells jerseys, brings people to the stadium.
Number one jersey for Roma right now.
But now you have Sule, who can now do that and plays in his position. And then it's like, where does he fit in the team? So I would, if I was Roma, although I'm sure fans love him and he sells jerseys and tickets, might be time to move on from him.
Yeah. I think Sule has become like one of the best players in the league early this season. And it's kind of I don't know why it's like kind of under the radar still. Like nobody's talking about him as like one of the best players in the league yet. And he very much has been so far this year.
It's the Juve propaganda trying to make it sound like their business wasn't that bad.
Good shout. Good shout. All right, let's keep it moving. We had Genoa go to Napoli. This one was 2-1. Goals from who scored in this one?
Zambo and Højlund.
And this was a comeback win. So they won 2-1 here. Really important note in this one. Antonio Conte listened to last week's episode of Calcio Culture. He went to a 4-3-3 in the first half, dropped KDB from the team, and got David Neres in, who I thought was very good, to be honest with you. Had a pretty good game in my mind. Obviously, they went into half down 1-0, and he went back to the four-man midfield, brought in KDB, and brought in Spinazzola for Oliveira, who had a very bad first half, and Juan Jesus also had a very bad first half. Storyline of the season to follow. And then KDB and Spinazzola both had their hands in the goal, the eventual goals. So it's kind of like Conte sticking my four-man midfield was working. I think this might hurt them, to be honest. And now he's going to go back to that four-man midfield again. I still am not sure it's the best formation, but KDB is essential to this team. Is kind of my takeaway from this one. If that's not the guy to drop, we said that's the guy to drop. I have done a full 180 on that one. I'm leaning towards this McTominay to drop because Zambo is amazing as well. So interesting one there. But Logs, you did have a note here that you want to talk about.
I think you started saying it, and I'm just going to confirm it that KDB is way more important to this team than Scott McTominay is. He's that creative force in that three-man midfield that we hope continues to go forward. I don't think the four-man midfield is the answer like we've agreed upon, but he is that driving creative force that's going to get the ball into dangerous spots. And without him on the pitch, we saw it time and time again last year. Granted, they had Lukaku, who was a little bit more creative than he was in years past, so it worked out nicely for them. I don't think Højlund or Luka is that guy. So they do need KDB to go out there because otherwise this game turns into, okay, Ekitor has a great finish, absolutely phenomenal finish from the Genoa 18-year-old. Back heel off the cross from Norton Cuffy. Horrible defense. Oliveira gets cooked on that side. Bukama's late to the ball across the box. But in any case, this is a 1-0 game going into the 91st minute, and maybe Zambo gets on the end of one and ties it up, and they claw away a point like they've done time and time again last year. That's not the Napoli this season that I foresee Conte wanting to run out there. I think KDB is that guy that's going to change it. Clearly did in this game. Played a dangerous ball in. I mean, that's where Zombo got his head on it. So the need to have Scott McTominay on the pitch this season needs to be looked at in a vacuum. I do not want to take anything away from Scott McTominay's absolutely stupendous performance, definitely MVP worthy performance last season, but this is a completely new Scudetto race. And I don't think that the way that this midfield is shaping up, Scott needs to be on the pitch. We do have a little bit of a kink in the situation here. Ibaka did go out with a knock. Billy Gilmore came in there. Not sure how Conte after the international break, whether that Ibaka comes back or not. I don't know what his timeline is. But if he does have to sit out, I wonder what Conte is going to do there. But between the performance against Milan and not being able to break down that low block aside from a PK, which KDB took and finished, and then in this game where the offense was pretty stagnant until KDB comes off the bench and they go back to that form in midfield, it is completely clear that they have to find a way to keep KDB on the pitch for as long as possible.
In terms of the Ibaka situation, I can answer that question for you. He looks at Billy Gilmore as straight up Ibaka's 1-for-1, like-for-like substitution. So if Ibaka's not playing, Billy Gilmore will be in the pacer role. No,
and he did well last year. He played a good amount last year and did well.
No, not taking anything away from Billy, but I think obviously Ibaka's better.
For sure. Yeah, no, Ibaka's better, but that's what will happen. But so obviously Kevin De Bruyne can change a game. That's kind of what I mentioned last week. You bring him on in a game that's not going your way, and he can unlock it and play a final ball. I do see a reason, and I think that it's valid to play him every game for 90 minutes because what he can do, like a Luka Modric for AC Milan, how he can pick a pass out at any point in time. So did some thinking around that, and maybe a formation that they can roll out would be the 3-5-2. I'm also going to cite my sources here. The Paramount Plus A team we're talking about lineups. It was in between a 4-3-3, this 4-1-4-1, and then a 3-5-2 was talked about. I do really like it. It allows you to get all three of your center backs in on the pitch because I know Rachmani has been a little bit injured, but he needs to be playing. You have Bongiorno and Bukama who are very good on the ball, but Rachmani was and is and has been the best defender last season and the best defender for Napoli for a long time. Very underratedly so, as other players get the headlines for whatever reason. But I think you need to play those three guys. And then in order to get all three of, or you can still play those three guys in the midfield in Zombo, Ibaka, and KDB in the 3-man midfield in the 3-5-2. You have Spinazzola on the left who can cover the ground for KDB. That Scott's been doing that. And then you play Højlund for now, and then your second striker is Scott McTominay. Because what is he good at? He's good at getting his head on crosses in the box. He's good at finishing in the box. He's good at making late runs, so he can play as a second striker. And then it can still allow him to do some of the running for KDB as well. So you get them all on the pitch. You get your best center backs on the pitch because Juan Jesus has been serviceable, but we saw last game he is weak. They've been leaking in the back, Napoli, for sure this season. I forget how many goals that they've led up on the year, but it's definitely more than Conte wants. 6 goals on the season, so I guess it's not a ton, but when you have Juventus only allowing 5 and Milan 3 and Roma 2, Napoli had the best defense in all of Europe last season. So got to shore up the defense. It's a different way to play all 4 of them without losing creativity, without losing runners, and I think it could work. And also, we know that one of the birthplaces of the 3-5-2 is Antonio Conte, so he loves the 3-5-2. So I think it could work.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen 3 yet this year. It just seems like this team is screaming for a back 3 at this point. So maybe after the international break we see it and they're practicing it and they go to it. But keeping us rolling, some other games that happened here. Como went to Atalanta. This was a really good game. Ended 1-1 goals from Samardzic and Perone in this one. Perone on like a crazy cross. That was just a fucked up cross that ended up going in the neck. But for me, the note on this one, a couple things. Ederson, Lookman fully back now. Both I thought were not very good in this game. Pretty rusty. So I think that's something to watch going forward. And then the other thing that's kind of becoming a theme so far this season is Carnesecchi. Carnesecchi, I think, is the best goalie so far this year. I think Spilar has also been exceptional. But Carnesecchi has come up with some very, very big saves, and that's one to watch. Going to have a big price tag. Italian. He's kind of overtaken Di Gregorio for me. I mean,
Well, and you're not the only one. Gattuso also put Carnesecchi on the national team for this window instead of Di Gregorio, so it's not going unnoticed from that perspective. But certainly, this is the guy. This is their glue guy right now, considering that their back line has not been consistent, a bit of in and out with the injuries, especially Scalvini. So this Carnesecchi evolution that we saw begun 2 years ago continued last season, and now solidly in the goalie of the year conversation for this year, even though it's only 6 games in.
Yeah, and then there were some other young players in this one. Honor, he's been playing quite a bit now for Atalanta. 17-year-old left center back. I'm kind of forced into playing him a little bit, but he's been exceptional. He played in the Champions League. He's pretty much become a starter for this team. The other guy that's come in is, I forget his first name, but Bernasconi on the left side. So the new left wing back, they've kind of been forced into playing him as well with some Zappacosta and Zalewski injuries. And then on the other side of things for Como, Joseph Adai did not. Joseph? Is it Joseph? Did I just make that up?
No.
Wasn't it Jonas?
Adai, regardless, Adai on Como. I thought he had another exceptional game. He had a bad match rating, but I thought he was all over the place. Kind of looking a lot like Hassan Diao in my mind. Very quick, get on the outside. So it'll be interesting what they do when Hassan Diao does come back. But that's another one to just keep your eye on this year. A lot of young guys, a lot of young Italians too, which is nice to see.
Yeah, Ahanor Italian, so that's a good look. But I think your call on Adai is really great, Vos, because he's exactly what Hassan Diao does, but on the right side versus the left side. So once they do get Diao back, it'll be incredibly interesting to see what they roll out there. One note for me, because I can't go more than 20 seconds without talking about Nico Paz. Probably his worst game of the season, and it wasn't even that bad. But just a note there that
he should have had an assist.
Should have had an assist. Just a note here that he's not Superman, but this guy still puts in all the work. But he does from time to time put in a 6.5 match rating. That's just what happens when you get used to him putting in a goal and assist every single game.
Other games we got here.
I have a note for this game. Atalanta I was dead wrong about Atalanta. I know that I said it last episode when I saw him play against Juventus. This was another great setup by Ivan Juric. They sat back, they let Como have their possession that they wanted, and they knew when Como is possessing it out of the back, that is when we press and target and go for the ball, and they created a ton of chances that way. Como struggled playing out of the back. I think Atalanta should have and could have easily won this game and got all 3 points. But the setup by Juric has been very good the last 2 games, and I think it only gets better as Lookman and Ederson and their actual starters come to get fully fit and fully in this rotation. And then one last thing that I will say is Sulemana is a very, very good player. And I'll be honest with you, Lookman is probably looking around being like, wow, maybe I know how important I am to this team, but they filled my void quick with one player, and it was from Juric's terrible disaster at Southampton. But he saw him, and if Lookman goes in January, yes, he'll be missed, but he might not be as missed as we all thought he would have been when he did leave, if he did leave this summer.
I mean, I would love to see Lookman, Sulemana, Krstovic. Krstovic got rested in this one, but that could be a very scary front three at some point this year. I don't know if we're going to see it, but we'll see. But keeping it rolling, Sassuolo went to Hellas Verona. Sass got a 1-0 win in this one on a Pinamonti rebound on one of the worst PKs I've ever seen. The other thing I just wanted to mention, Kone for Sassuolo. Center mid, kind of a box-to-box guy. I think he's one to watch this season. I think he's going to leave the club at the end of the year. He seems like a guy that's destined for a lot of success. So just a guy to keep an eye on. I think he's been exceptional. And then a couple things on the Hellas Verona side.
Yeah, we talked about this before, whether we tweeted it, whether we put in the preview, but keep an eye on this Verona front too. Giovanni and Orban are just itching for goals. Some of the hungriest strikers in this entire league. If they can figure out their finishing, get a little bit more clinical from that standpoint, their shots on goal percentages are incredibly high. These two are super, super dangerous. I would not be surprised to see one of them go in the winter window.
What I will say about a lot of their shots on goal is every time they see the net, they shoot no matter like where they are on the pitch. Like the number of like 30 plus shot yards outshot that have been taken is actually ridiculous.
Also itching
Shots
for goals. Orban had a literal sitter inside the 6-yard line with no one in goal against Roma, and he missed it. So that's pretty poor. But those two, we've definitely talked about them. Those two are very good up top and make Verona very tough team to beat. However, they still lack goals and only scoring 2 goals this whole season with those two
I think
strong
this
strikers.
is number 2, if not number 1, hot seat manager in Zanetti. I don't know how he's still there, to be honest, because they were pretty bad last year, barely stayed up, and like it hasn't gotten better. I don't know how you're sticking with him. And like we said, there's a lot of managers out there that will maybe take this job. So that's another one I'm looking. I mean, again, international break. Maybe you pull the shoot here if you're Hellas Verona. A couple other ones. Lecce went to Parma, poured out a very, very important 3 points. Satil got his first start and had the game winner on this one. Kind of a weird cross that nobody stopped and just ended up going into the net. The other kind of thriller we had this weekend was Torino at Lazio. This game ended 3-3. I think overall pretty bad performances from both teams. Both teams had the lead at some point. We had 2 goals past the 90th minute. There was a disaster penalty that Torino gave up. And like kind of bad for both parties. Like Torino very much could have won this game. Lazio probably looks at this as they should have won it. Positive takeaway for Lazio. Consigliere very much firing on all cylinders now. A very important part of this game was in transition. They were always just launching a ball to him. So I think that's something to watch going forward, because in the past we've seen transition, you give the ball to Tati Castellanos immediately. We may maybe see something different now with the emergence of Consigliere. And then what happened with Baroni here? Because I missed this.
Yeah, after the game, Baroni was asked a question. It was a classic Italian media question, like, why is your team playing poorly? And then there was also, as that was going on, there was another man laughing while Baroni was answering the question. So Baroni took offense to that and basically called him out and said, "Why are you laughing?" And then he walked off. And then that Italian media or journalist got really mad. And then Baroni and him got into a very heated altercation where they were just screaming at each other. And that tells me that Baroni is very much feeling the pressure. Obviously, it's rude to laugh at a guy when he's talking or about how they blew this lead. So it definitely was disrespectful as well. But you're not lashing out as a manager in that way unless you know, like, hey, I feel the pressure, my job's on the line. And it is on the line because there was rumors beforehand that if Baroni lost this game, he would have been sacked and De Rossi's the guy that they're looking at. So a lot of pressure. But if this podcast is the only one that knows it, I don't know how these owners in Italy don't understand that Baroni is a top manager. What he did at Lazio last season was sensational. What he did at Verona before that to keep him up when they transferred like 15 guys on him was also very, very good. So if Torino do sack him, they would have made a mistake just as Latito did last season. And a team should, if he is sacked, should scoop him up as soon as possible.
Fiorentina.
Yes.
I just have to make a point about this game. It bothers me every time I watch Torino. Their goalie, Israel, is dog shit. He is fucking horrendous. I've never seen positioning so bad from a keeper in my entire life. This guy is horrible. This is probably why Baroni is heated. They go from the best keeper in the league, who's literally getting points for them single-handedly, to I don't know who this man is. I might have played with this guy in high school.
It may have been in high school. You were a pretty bad goalie too, yeah.
It might have been me on the intramural pitch. This guy is terrible. That's all I'll say about it.
I don't remember the bad stuff in this game, but I agree. There's been some questionable ones, so I don't remember it in this game.
Horrible.
All right, other game, another one, big headline. We're going to spend a second on this one. Cremonese went back to the San Siro to play Inter Milan. Inter Milan destroyed them 4-1. Boni with his
Colpy leg,
full debut, goal, 3 assists. Pio Esposito. Pio scored? I may have missed that. Pio Esposito scored. And now we're gone 13 goals.
Oh, wait, no.
I don't think he did.
Yeah.
It was Gianmarco, Boni, Lautaro,
and Barella.
Pio, I think, bad note.
Pio scored last game for Inter and got his goal.
Last game.
Yeah. But important to note here.
That's what it was.
Since the Juventus game, Inter have scored 13 goals
first
and
thing
conceded 2. That does include Champions League. Did they figure something out? Have they turned a corner? This is what we were crying out for. Why can't they do this week after week, game in, game out? And they've put together a real string of this now. Dominant defense, dominant offense. This is kind of a statement. Is this it? Or is this because they're not playing great teams? What do you think it is?
I think this Inter team continues. I don't see why this momentum doesn't flow on. The way that this team is finding goals seems to be incredibly consistent, which to me means that Kivu has found a way to put these guys in the right position whenever they want, right? And when Inter is playing this way, when they're scoring goals at will, when they know the exact formula to get the job done, it's a very scary Inter because they can be militant about that. It's the Inter that gets a little lackadaisical, gets a little bit of that brain fog in the second half that we've been incredibly hard on. But since that Juve game, it seems like that brain fog has gone away. The front line here, Lautaro scoring goals whenever he wants. Bony coming in off the bench and being a little of a release for Thuram. This is a scary Inter team. This is the Inter team that we saw win a Scudetto, be in the Scudetto race, be in the Champions League final. That if they can continue to see this form through the first half of the season, I don't see why they can't continue it through the second half and ultimately in all competitions.
Love it. I mean, yeah, the ruthlessness is the key because when they're rolling, like they're mean and they're scary to play against. But the other games that happened, we had Cagliari go to Udinese. That game tied 1-1. This was a absolute horrible performance from Cagliari. They did literally everything in their power to try to lose this game, and they somehow drew it. And they are very lucky that they didn't lose this game. And from an Udinese perspective, this is a big 3 points you're dropping. Like they literally gave the ball away in their box like 4 or 5 times for no reason. So very bad there. And then the last game that happened, Pisa went to Bologna. Bologna won this one 4-0. Cambiaghi had a goal and an assist. 2 assists for Dalinga, who came in for Santiago Castro, who was being rested. And then the other note that I had, rotation player, Nicolo Moro, had a very good performance at center defensive mid. And this is just a good one for Bologna to get another one done while rotating the squad, going to be important. Some other things we just wanted to mention really quick that did happen midweek. We had Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League. In the Champions League, Atalanta beat Club Brugge at home 2-1. Inter Milan beat Slavia Prague. Praha, always don't know about that one. It's always a question for me.
Prague,
yeah, 3-0 at home. Napoli had a war at home against Lisbon, 2-1. Juve, very tough drop of points at Villarreal, 2-2, courtesy of a Renato Vega last-minute header on a corner kick.
Who else?
It had to be. In the Europa League, Lille beat Roma 1-0 at the Stadio Olimpico. Tough one there. And Bologna drew 1-1 against Freiburg. And then to round things out, like we mentioned earlier, Fiorentina did beat Sigma. I'm not going to give them a ton of credit for beating Sigma because I don't know who that is. 2-0 at home. And we do not have any games next week because we have an international break, like we said, but we do have a Stunat of the week. And as I alluded to it, Stunat of the week, it's a bad one, is Nicolo Zaniolo of Udinese, who missed maybe the best chance of the entire season. There was nobody in his way, and he just bombed one right over the net on one of those Cagliari giveaways. So congratulations, Zaniolo. You're in a small group of people that have been handed Stunat of the week.
Zaniolo is going to be back at Stunat of the week. That man screams, I love being a Stunat.
I agree.
If we did we went back in time, we were giving some look back Stunats of the weeks. Zaniolo is there a couple of times.
And with that, guys, we do not have a Colby, but we will be back next week. To give you an update on the Colby, we went 1 for 3. Logs hit his leg. So Logs is back. Mats is not back. I am also not back. But for the international break, Italy is playing Estonia on Saturday and Israel on Tuesday. These are very important games, guys. Italy is currently second in the group, tied with Israel on 9 points. So that Israel game is very important. In 4th place is Estonia on 3 points. So they're a little bit clear of them. And then Norway in 1st on 15. So they're really duking it out with Israel. So these are really big games. A lot of decisions for Gattuso to make. And I think we're going to try to get an episode out about these games sometime next week. Because again, no Serie A this weekend.
And just for you Paisans watching, do remember, Italy need to win both these games. They need to get that 6 points. Again, Norway on 15 points here. They need some miracles. They need some magic. Norway to drop points against both Israel, and I guess they play Estonia after that. But let's not forget that Norway has an unbelievable goal difference because there's another team in this group. They beat them 10-0. It might have been Estonia. So Norway fully in control of this group, which means Italy second place. It's looking like we're going to the playoff.
I will say that I forget for what, but I know that Israel is under investigation and could potentially be suspended from like FIFA or UEFA. So that could help us, but I don't want to use that as like how we get in. Like Italy should be getting into the World Cup, even though they don't every year, but there is something going on where they could potentially be suspended. So yeah, if we fingers crossed there, maybe it's one way we don't get in by winning, we can get in off the pitch.
All right.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap for us. Again, we'll be back with something. We'll talk about something next week. I don't know what yet. Probably a little bit of Italy, a little bit of other things. So we'll have something in the mix. But yeah, Lex, take us away here.
Yeah, Paisans, thanks again for sticking it out here. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, you know where to find us. Please like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars. Anything helps. We really appreciate it. You can find us on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, at Calcio Culture FC, and on your favorite podcast streaming site, Apple Pods and Spotify. Mats, take us away.
Yeah, Paisanos. Like we said, push for the Paisanos. Tell a friend to tell a friend, comment, like, subscribe. I'm just like you guys have been doing. But as always, do not be a gagoots and Forza Calcio Culture.